Did you know that we talked a little bit earlier about Donald Trump and the grief he's taking because he wants a pause in Muslim immigration to the United States? Did you know that Islamophobia can also help cause global warming? Well, I don't know that that's true, but I'm telling you right now there are some people in academia who claim that. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, I'd like to remind you the next couple of days we'll see a nice warm up. We'll be kind of like summer. It won't last, but it'll be for a couple of days. We're expecting highs in the 80s. And with that, the summer heat, of course, there's a sign that it's right around the corner. Whether you need repairs right away or you would just like to avoid problems in the future, call the pros at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Make sure the job is done right the first time and set yourself up for a great summer. See them at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley or give them a telephone call. Let me give you that telephone number a couple of times. That way you might be able to write it down. 678-0459. I'll get back to that in just a moment. Ramsey Heating and Electric. They sell warm winters and cool summers. That's Ramsey Heating and Electric, and the telephone number 678-0459. So I came across this story this morning. I was sitting at my desk and sipping a cup of coffee and just contemplating the day. And the Media Research Center, which is a great publication, I should point out. I actually did a program a couple of years ago. It might have been 2 or 3 years ago. Dan Gaynor, who's the vice president of the Media Research Center, the two of us, we did a program together, and we invited a couple of liberal newspaper reporters, and we embarrassed the living daylights out of them about how they cover stories. And they vowed never to talk with us again because, well, we exposed them for what they really are. But this is a story from Media Research Center on a non-journalist matter. It's about academia. Students at the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology examined ways Islamophobia may be, quote, accelerating, unquote, global warming. What? Yeah, it's all that heat coming off the top of your head when you get angry about a terrorist attack. At an event hosted by the Ecology and Justice Forum and Global Studies and Languages on Monday. So they've tied in ecology, justice, and global studies and languages all in one title. University of Melbourne professor. Now that might mean that he's coming from Australia. I don't think it's Melbourne, Florida. But his name is Ghassan Hagi, which means, of course, he's probably not originally from Australia. Examined, quote, the relation between Islamophobia as the dominant form of racism today and the ecological crisis, unquote. Apparently, according to Hagi, Islam is a race, not a religion. And this is the description of what happened. Looks at the three common ways in which the two phenomena are seen to be linked as an entanglement of two crises, metaphorically related with one being a source of imagery for the other, and both originating in colonial forms of capital accumulation. The talk proposes a fourth way of linking the two, an argument that they are both emanating from a similar mode of being or enmeshment in the world, what is referred to as generalized domestication. Did you understand any of that? They give the guy a sabbatical so he can go write more of that kind of stuff too while he's on the road talking about it. We should point out he is a vocal supporter of something called BDS. That is a movement against Israel, boycott, divestment, and sanctions. I have a Jewish TV channel on my DirecTV package. I was watching it last night, and they had the Jewish Memorial Day celebration at the Western Wall. Is that what it's called? And a beautiful ceremony. I got to watch that last night. First time I've ever seen that. But folks, we're dealing with a lot of people here who long ago lost their minds. And I say this all goes back to a certain period in our country, in our history, where people just started abusing themselves, and it gets worse.
Don't bogart that joint, my friend. Pass it over to me. Don't bogart that joint, my friend.
Yes, if you think that perhaps they've been passing the peace pipe a little too much on these college campuses and amongst other leftist organizations, let me share this with you. This comes from the Washington Examiner today. 100 nude women to descend on Cleveland for GOP convention. At first, I thought the Donald was having a party in his suite. No, that's not it. It says 100 nude women will gather for a photo shoot in Cleveland during the week of the convention. The photograph, now this is a quote, the photograph will involve 100 nude women holding large mirror discs, reflecting the knowledge and wisdom of progressive women and concept of Mother Nature into and onto the convention center cityscape and horizon of Cleveland. That from the fellow who is organizing it. His name is Spencer Tunick. By holding mirrors, he says, we hope to suggest that women are a reflection and embodiment of nature, the sun, the sky, and the land. He continued, the mirrors communicate that we are a reflection of ourselves, each other, and of the world that surrounds us. The woman becomes the future, and the future becomes the woman. That's about as easy to understand as that guy claiming that Islamophobia causes global warming. The 49-year-old New York-based artist developed the plan to photograph 100 nude women with his wife and said, the work is for my daughters. So they're on the shores of beautiful Lake Erie and beautiful downtown Cleveland. They're going to be taking pictures. My guess is a lot of the women who are going to show up, well, they probably aren't cover girl models. So it's not like men are going to go out there and, hoot and holler and do all of those things. It's likely going to be a lot of the other granola chompers from around the country who decide to join in on all of this so that they can commune with the sun and smoke a little bit of that ganja.
Don't bogart that joint, my friend.
Can you see them singing this at the Democrats' convention?
To me.
Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders there together?
Don't bogart that joint, my friend.
And we tend to wonder why the country is in such trouble and, why we have $20 trillion in debt and so many stupid people roaming the streets. Or maybe we don't wonder. Maybe we already know. We've got this today, too, as well. Since we're on this topic of the bat crap crazy who are now trying to run the country, this is from an organization or a publication called the Weekly Standard. Bill Kristol, the publisher of that. The undergraduate course Men in Literature was taught 8 times from 2005 to 2015 at Springfield College in Massachusetts. It drew healthy enrollments and was reviewed favorably by a large majority of the students who took it. In 2010, it was formally approved by the College Curriculum Committee as an addition to the offerings of the Humanities Department. But in the fall of 2013, trouble began, not yet for Men in Literature, but for the man who devised and taught it, a tenured English professor and South African expatriate. His name is Dennis Gauss. He had become interested in the emerging field of men's studies and had helped to found a Springfield College men's group. The group created a Facebook page that irritated some campus feminists. Tell you what does not offend a feminist? Really, think about that for a moment. He had gone further by replying to the proliferation of feminist anti-rape posters on his colleagues' office doors. He put on his own office doors flyers that presented statistics on rape that contradicted the widespread claim that 1 in 5 women are raped during their undergraduate years. His materials were torn down by a departmental colleague, and later his door was vandalized. He was then called to a meeting by Springfield's Director of Human Resources and subjected to a harangue by a group of college officials. At the meeting, one of the college officials complained that the posters created a hostile environment. Huh? That's the claim. And the dean of his college called the organizations that had produced the flyer a hate group. Thus began Springfield College's campaign to suppress the professor's freedom of expression on the topic of how men are treated in contemporary higher education. And you're thinking, well, it can't get any worse than that. At Northwestern University, they were trying to be politically correct. The Student Fraternity Council, that is the Greek Council, the men's fraternities, decided to actually post photographs as well as hang posters from their frat houses in support of women and in support of efforts to try and tamp down campus rape. And then they were told, take those down because it's upsetting women. It's a triggering effect. And when they see it, it reminds them of how vicious rape is. So now they've taken down their posters and their signs, and they've had to issue an apology because they were sympathetic with the women. I know. 8:53. Bill Colley with you on Top Story this morning on News Radio 1310. KLIX and newsradio1310.com. You can reach our program by dialing 736-0300. That's 736-0300. I'm also available by email at bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com. bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com. Are we done with that subject? Well, no. Washington Examiner today. Harvard women don't like equality when it applies to them. It turns out when gender-neutral rules negatively impact women, some women don't like it. At Harvard University, women are protesting the school's recent move to ban single-sex final clubs because the school didn't limit the ban only to male clubs. Due to the wording of Harvard's new rule ending the clubs, the school's 5 fraternities and 4 sororities, as well as the women-only final clubs, would be disbanded. It's a kind of taste of their own medicine, the writer says, as Ivy League schools like Harvard are at the forefront of using the anti-gender discrimination statute known as Title IX to force schools into punishing men for various offenses in the name of gender equity. Title IX itself is gender neutral, according to the writer, but we've seen the statute, especially in recent years, used to deny men accused of sexual assault or harassment their due process or the presumption of innocence. And the writer says until now, there hasn't been a campus uproar because only men were receiving the unfair treatment. But now that a gender-neutral rule is affecting women, we see the beginnings of a revolt. Now, if the men just claimed that they were women, then it would be okay, right? And then they could all go use the same potty. You're up next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on KLIX.
Yes, speaking of women who have unique lifestyles, the governor of Oregon, Kate Brown, who...
the bisexual, right.
Exactly. You know something, Bill? I was talking to a rancher yesterday from Harney County, and right where, Lavoy Finicum got shot, and that whole thing.
Right.
And I spent a half hour, 45 minutes on the phone with him, and he told me Kate Brown is married, but she has a girlfriend. She's married to a man and has a girlfriend, and enlightened people of Oregon think it's just fine. I guess if you had a daughter and you didn't care, if you want to make sure she's enlightened, and let's start right out of the gate. Let's teach them right when they're, hell, why not start about 2 years old? And let's get them tuned up so they really wonder if God made a mistake.
The thing is, what type of man would allow this in a marriage?
I don't know. When he told me that, the rancher, I thought, well, it's just him talking. And then I heard somebody else say, no, it's true. And then now you're the third person who's told me this in the last 24 hours.
All I can say is this. When it comes to, it reminds me of the men who have the hyphenated last names. You end up knowing who really wears the pants in those families.
Well, you know what?
He's the house eunuch. That's what he is.
Eunuch. That's true. There are too many eunuch men running around, and I wonder if they've forgotten what the hell that's for. So I'll hang up.
Thank you much for the call. Maybe he likes to use the ladies' room, too. 8:57. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. In our continuing series of candidates who are coming in, talking about next week's primary, we expect to be joined in just a few minutes by Doug McFall, Jerome County Sheriff. And I still have a time slot open tomorrow. I've been holding it open for one legislator in particular, but he hasn't gotten back to me. But we should, if he's here tomorrow, that should wrap up our series of candidates prior to the primary coming up on Tuesday. Of course, you can vote in advance, I think, through tomorrow. So if you wanted to do that, not that there'll be a lot of lines for this primary, but I'm passing that along. And quickly, too, if you're listening to our program and you're struggling to listen to it, we need to recommend that you see Dr. Christine Pickup at Mount Harrison Audiology. With advances in healthcare, people are living longer and healthier. However, cognitive decline continues to be a major concern. People with hearing loss have a much greater risk of developing cognitive decline, which can lead to dementia. The greater the loss, the greater the risk. Keeping your hearing healthy is an important part of your overall wellness. And we need to remind you, knowing your hearing status and doing something about it can lead to a better, healthier life as you age. Now is the time to schedule a hearing evaluation. Call Mount Harrison Audiology for an appointment today, 208-312-0000. 0957 208 312 0957 or go to MontHarrisonAudiology.com. News is next from Fox at 9 o'clock. It's 52.